If there's anyone here who doesn't know me, my name is Nayaswami Devarshi. I'm part of Ananda Sangha, and I've been with Ananda Sangha for 40 years now. And I just have come back from a visit to Ananda Village in the United States. I just came back less than a week ago. And it was my first visit there in 2 years. And in some ways, it was a very special and inspiring and sort of a poignant visit, because while I was there, it was literally, I celebrated my 40 years of being a disciple of this path, of first meeting Swami Kriyananda. And Ananda Village, it's a spiritual community, an ashram of about 250 people. And in a way, what we have here is an expansion and an extension of Ananda Village, which is a spirit of generosity, friendship. And I'll tell a few stories of my time there. One of them, it's a friend of many years who I've told about him before. But it's just, you see in 2 years, you see people growing and growing. You see little children who were this big, and all of a sudden they're this big. There were children who weren't born yet, now they're 2 years old walking around. But also you see spiritual growth so deeply, because people are sincerely dedicated. This friend of mine, he has very advanced Parkinson's disease. And just in 2 years, it's gotten much, much more advanced. And he can barely walk around. He staggers and stumbles like he's really, really drunk, just the way he walks. But there is no self-pity, no self-consciousness, and in fact, extreme selflessness. He's always serving, he's always giving, he's always out there clearing the forest, helping others. And he went up to receive a blessing one Sunday satsang from Jyotishan Devi. And he couldn't even stand. He had 2 feet on the ground and one hand on the ground, staggered there, just smiling in bliss the whole time. No self-consciousness. And I asked his wife, I asked her, is he always like this? Because it was almost too good to be true, because this is a very intense condition. She said, he is the nicest man on the planet. I'm blessed that I'm married to him. She said that when he wakes up in the morning, he cannot move his body. He's just stuck in bed for a long time. And the whole time he's there, she said, he chants to God, always have I loved thee, ever shall I love thee, thee alone, thee alone. And she said one time she saw him just a little bit dejected. He was sitting out on the porch. She asked him how he was doing, and he said, oh, I'm fine. And they said, I just need to chant a little bit, and I'll be just perfect. And he did. And that was the only time she ever saw him with any sense of self-pity or sadness. And this is the fruit of a life lived, sharing with others and giving to others. And this was Swami Kriyanandaji's example. I'm going to talk about this quality of divine friendship this evening, because in a way, everything that he gave was as a divine friend, and just generously sharing with others what his guru gave to him, and wanting to give the guru's love and upliftment with others. Another story, I stayed with our monks there. We have a monastery here, and we have a monastery there. And there's about 12 monks, and I stayed with them. And at the first morning meditation, they did something that just surprised me, because we do healing prayers at a lot of our satsangs, and sometimes when we do the healing prayers, we offer up individual names for healing. And you might hear 3, 4, 5, 6 names of people who especially need healing. And the names kept rolling out and coming out on and on. It seemed like it was never going to end. And what was so sweet about it was there was such extreme kindness in the voice of every single person when they were saying the name of the person. And it went on so long that I thought, okay, tomorrow morning, I need to count how many names, because this is unbelievable to me. And so the next morning I counted, and the names started coming. And at 10, they were only starting. 20 names, barely beginning. 30, no, further than that. 40, 50, 60, they hadn't stopped at 60. 70, nope, they kept going after that. At 70, I stopped counting, because at that point, I didn't know whether to count 3 names said all at once as 3 or 1, and it just kept going on and on like that. And it was so endearing to see, because it was a distraction at the end of their meditation to do this, and I found it too much, personally, to do that every morning. But I also was very inspired to see that people's meditation and the fruits of their meditation was given and shared completely with others. And this was Swami Kriyanandaji's, really, in some ways, his greatest trait. When he left the body, hundreds and hundreds of people wrote notes to Ananda village and testimonials. And so many people, countless people, said he was the greatest friend that I ever had. And many of these people were people who maybe only met him a few times in their whole life. And what they were saying was that he gave me divine friendship like no one ever has, even in those few meetings I had with him. And in a way, that's why we are all here, because we want to share this with others. Those who have visited Ananda Village, you have to think that those of us who have left this incredible place to come to Indian cities or other cities, people must think we're insane for leaving that place to come where the horns are honking rather than hearing the birds singing. But it's it's what Swami Kriyanandaji has given us, which is divine inspiration, divine joy, and just the understanding that when we share it with others, we grow in that quality ourselves. And divine friendship, Yoganandaji said, friendship is the greatest relationship that there is. He said greater than love, greater than husband, wife, family, all these things. He said other relationships have some compulsion and some expectation. He said friendship is just pure. It's one heart giving to another. And in fact, even the guru-disciple relationship ultimately is one of divine friend. I'll read from the Gita here, a passage that Swamiji has interpreted, chapter 4, stanza 3. Krishna says, "Today I have taught you, my devotee and friend, that ancient science of yoga, the secret to the highest blessings for mankind." And when we hear this stanza, I think we think, the greatest blessings of yoga to mankind as being the important part. But Swami Kriyanandaji, being who he was, and having a deeper understanding of these things, tuned into a different aspect of this. He said, in his interpretation, "It is a thought wondrous to contemplate. As the devotee advances spiritually, he is accepted by the Lord himself, not only as a devotee, but as a friend. The relationship with God as friend is in some ways the sweetest. For even the thought of God as mother, which many consider the sweetest of all relationships, carries a hint of the human presumption that God must take care of us and pardon all our sins. As Yogananda taught people to pray, 'Mother, naughty or good, I am thy child. Thou must release me.' When one is advanced enough, however, to think of God as friend, there steals into the heart that sweet confidence by which one feels, 'But of course you love me. I am yours, you are mine. How could either of us ever turn away from the other? We are one.'" And this is perhaps looking at this highest of all relationships and understanding that divine friendship is the deepest and highest. If we want to become divine and godlike, then we can act and should act as an instrument of divine friendship to others. Look at everyone as your friend is a way to, Swami Kriyanandaji did this. Everyone he ever met, I believe he saw them as his divine friend, and he gave friendship to them. There's a beautiful story, I think I've heard Aditya tell this before, of an Indian saint who came to America. His name was Swami Ramatirtha, and he's not very well known, but we hear of Swami Vivekananda coming in 1893 to America to this big conference of religions in Chicago as sort of the storming of the gates of the West by an Indian saint for the first time. And then Yogananda coming around 1920 to live in America. But in between there was this Swami Ramatirtha. And he toured through America and gave many talks and lectures and gathered disciples who were inspired by him. But he wasn't invited to a big conference the way Vivekananda and Yoganandaji were. He just was inspired, got a ticket on a boat, came to America. And as the boat was pulling into San Francisco Harbor, people were preparing to leave the boat. And there was an American gentleman talking to Ramatirtha, and he inquired of him. He said, "So, do you know anyone in America?" And Swami Ramatirtha said, "No." He said it very cheerfully and happily. And he asked him, do you know anything about this country? And very happily he said, "No." And then the man says, "Anybody even greeting you here when you get off the boat?" And he said, "No." And then he asked Swami Ramatirtha, "Do you have any friends here in America?" And Swami Ramatirtha said, "Yes, I have one." And the man said, "Who?" And Swami Ramatirtha looked at him and said, You are my friend." And it turns out this man sponsored his lecture tour and became his great friend already, benefactor. And so when we see everyone as a friend, and this really is the development of spiritual community that Swami Kriyanandaji developed, with this concept that when everyone around you, rather than being a competitor, is your friend, then great things can be done. Because you are, in a sense, you're pooling your good karma, your resources, your friendship, all together and sharing it all, and everyone is uplifted. And Yoganandaji said about world brotherhood colonies, as he put it, these spiritual communities. He saw this as the real answer to all the problems that we are seeing now, warfare and prejudice and religions fighting each other. And he just said that this is the answer. All the nations of the world and different religions and caste and creed must become friends. And so divine friendship is the highest. Now, in a way, this is also the beauty of East and West coming together. And so when you see divine friends, don't look at language, nationality. Again, Swami Ramatirtha, he saw everyone as his friend. Swami Kriyanandaji, Yoganandaji. And this whole idea of East and West coming together. Swami Ramatirtha, and just to continue with him, he taught what he called practical Vedanta. That was the way he described it. And he said one time, he said, in a lecture, he said, someday you all are going to bring these very philosophical and spiritual teachings of India, and you're going to make them practical and applicable to daily life and bring them back to India. And in a way, Swami Kriyanandaji was the one who did that, because he applied all these spiritual principles into daily life. Because true friendship, in ways, is also practical. It's not a sentiment. True love is practical. It's not a sentiment. When you truly love someone, you will do anything for them. And again, you look at the guru-disciple relationship. You read about Yoganandaji and other great masters taking on the karma of their disciples. And this sounds like a great sort of metaphysical concept. But practically, what does it mean? It means they take their suffering and their pain, their disease, into their own body and feel that suffering and that pain. And in a way, this is just, again, it's friendship. It's not some cosmic decree of guru and disciple. It's just one friend helping the other in a very practical way. And this is what we all do here. So as we grow and build Ananda Sangha Pune in this center, those who are here new for the first time, realize that everyone is your friend. And if you don't know anyone here, go up to someone and say, introduce yourself. And if they say, do you know anyone here? And say, yes, you are my friend. And for everyone who's been here for a long time, always be on the lookout for someone who's here for the first time, who maybe doesn't know anyone, who's a little bit uncomfortable, and see them as a dear friend. In fact, Swami Kriyanandaji once said that every connection and meeting that we have with someone in this lifetime, he said, would not happen unless we had had some connection in a previous lifetime, especially a meaningful connection, coming to a satsang together, coming for spiritual teachings together. And so don't take for granted the friendships that we have, the way that we can help each other, inspire each other, uplift each other. Again, that's the beauty over the years of Ananda Village, because this man I was talking about, he's everyone's friend. Everyone is his friend. At some point, his body is going to reach the point where he can't even take care of himself, I imagine. And yet he'll have 250 friends taking care of him and giving their love, their attention, their support for him. And we have seen this over the years at Ananda. People who have this type of disease or others that make them completely incapacitated, they literally have a couple of hundred friends blessing them, helping them. And so divine friendship, in a way, is the highest quality. In a way, it's the most selfless also, because again, as Swamiji, as Yoganandaji said, there's no expectation of anything in return. It's only this thought of giving. What's very interesting is that where I was staying at Ananda Village, there was on the wall, there was a big chart, and it was Yogananda's psychological chart, which is a very interesting thing. It would be a great class. Have you ever done a class on the Master's psychological chart here? It's a very interesting concept. He called it a psychological chart, but I think he was trying to appeal to the Western mind. What he was doing is he took all human qualities and he broke them down into sattvic qualities, rajasic qualities, tamasic qualities, but also sattvic, tamasic qualities that were a combination of the two, sattvic, rajasic, rajasic, tamasic. What's interesting about it is that looking at these qualities, you start to understand what are the divine qualities. You start to, he recommends it as a tool of introspection to see what that we have and how we can take them to the next level. But in the relation to friendship, what's very interesting, the sattvic, rajasic qualities, among the many of them are loyalty, love for parents, love for relations, love for friends. And we would think that these must be sattvic qualities, but they're a little bit down from the highest qualities. And then in the purely sattvic qualities, this is very interesting. He says love towards neighbors, love towards animals, practical sympathy for others, forgiveness. And you see, again, when love for family, love for friends, there's an expectation in that. But love for neighbors, love for strangers, love for animals, there's no expectation of return in any of those relationships. And so work on developing this quality of divine friendship towards all, neighbors, strangers, animals, whoever is walking down the street. It's just, for me, one of the beautiful experiences of being in India. Because in America, I've always been a hermit, and I've had inclinations towards walking in nature. And I probably spent 100 hours walking at Ananda Village, because you're just all by yourself in these rolling hills and vast vistas. And somebody finally stopped, a friend of mine stopped one day and said, I see you only walking here every day, hours and hours every day. Is that all you are doing here? And in fact, it probably was, because the ground there truly is sacred from devotees for 50 years walking it. But also this chant, I will be a gypsy, is much more to my heart than being part of a spiritual organization with duties and responsibilities. But coming to a place where there's a city and there's 1 million people, and it's easy to see God in nature for me. But I think the only way that Master has given me divine grace for being in a city is that he somehow has allowed me more and more to see God in all people. And just to be, even in a crowded city, I walk the streets here now, and I went to some shopping today, and just, hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's chaotic and horns blasting everywhere. And like I said, it's just the opposite of walking the hills of Ananda village. But somehow that grace has come just to see God in every single soul, and just to be in awe of the variety, the beauty, the grace, the different ways and expressions of God. And when we can do that and befriend God in others, not in a personal way, but really in a divine way, go beyond the personality, go beyond the relationship of, this person is an acharya and I'm a new student, or this person is, my friend or co-worker or whatever. Go beyond that and really try to tune into the divine light within each soul. And you will find that when in the morning you meditate, you pray, and pray this way. Pray, Divine Mother, Lord, today let me see you everywhere. Let me see you in everything. Let me see you in every person. Let me see only you everywhere. If you make that prayer consistently, if you look for God consistently in other souls, in all situations, you will start to see God more and more everywhere you look. And I think this is one of the most beautiful practices and helpful practices that I've had in my own spiritual life, is always be on the lookout for God. And at Ananda Village, my wife and I used to go for long walks. And sometimes people go on walks and you see them talking business the whole time and about problems and this and that, and they don't see anything around them. And we would always walk pretty much in silence. And when we were going for a walk, it was never, let's go for a walk. It was always, let's go on an expedition and let's have an adventure. And there was always this thought, what are we going to see today? And we would just go out and we would see a lot. We would see animals and owls and coyotes and different things. And not every day, but when you look all the time for God, you're not going to see God all the time. But if you always look with the expectation, with a heart ready and receptive to see God in people and situations, also to give God to people and situations, you will start to experience God more and more. And this really is the way to build magnetism of a group of people, of a group of souls. And this really is what Swami Kriyanandaji gave us with Ananda Sangha. Now it's thousands and thousands and thousands of souls all over the world. And it's because each person, one by one, each one of us came here. And when I came 40 years ago to Ananda Village, what I was so struck by was that every person who greeted me, they were a friend. They were giving me their friendship. And I've always been one who just never, ever fit in anywhere in my life. Growing up, I was always looking, how am I ever going to fit in this world? And when I came to Ananda Village, I saw everyone was my friend and befriending me. And this is the way Ananda has grown. And this, again, in some ways, is Swami Kriyanandaji's greatest quality, to be a divine friend. And it's something that each one of us can do. It's actually, I think, the greatest way for spiritual growth. And it's the way that this center will grow more and more in love, harmony, and divine friendship. So let's be, as Krishna to Arjuna, divine friend to all, and feel that divine friendship flowing through us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.